Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another Inven Global Esports Conference panel. On our second day, we had a great day yesterday filled with so many interesting discussions. My name is John Popko. I'm here, a part of the editorial team here at Inven Global, and I'm here with a very cool lineup of some of the people working behind the scenes in esports. What's interesting about this panel is not only do these people represent some of the most prominent teams in esports, but they are four of the organizations leading the way in terms of Smash esports and the development of that grassroots scene. For those of you watching that aren't aware, Smash is one of the most unique esports, not just as a game, but also as an investment for an organization because of the publisher's lack of interest in fostering an esports scene. It's become arguably the biggest grassroots scene in esports. And we're in fact coming up on the 10-year anniversary of when Smash sort of more exploded into the esports scene in 2013 and really took off in that sense. These are four of the organizations that are definitely leading the way in this respect. There are others, but these four are among those that stand out in going above and beyond as far as the average esport does in terms of investing in Smash. So to begin, we can start off by introducing everyone. Maybe you guys can give a bit of info on your involvement with your org, your relationship with Smash, as well as maybe provide a summary of your org's history being involved in the game. Maybe Hunter, do you think we can start with you as far as Golden
Sure.
Guardians?
Yeah. So my name is Hunter Leigh. I'm head of esports for the Golden State Warriors and Golden Guardians. We got into Smash a little over 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago, when we signed Zane. Right before he won Genesis, I guess whatever that was, Genesis 7 at that point. And right before the COVID lockdown started, which definitely had a big effect on the fighting game scene and Smash in particular. A little over a year ago, we expanded our presence, signing 3 additional people, Toph, PPMD, and None, and launched a YouTube channel and a bunch of content around Smash Melee. And just had a wonderful time in Smash in general the last 2.5 years. The engagement is fantastic, and the community is wonderful.
Wonderful to have you here. Michael, maybe we could talk to you a bit about FlyQuest.
Sure. I'm Michael. I'm the COO of FlyQuest, and I guess I believe we're the youngest org here to enter Smash out of the people here. We just joined Smash in December of 2021 by signing Kadoran, a melee player. We joined Smash because Smash is my personal favorite game of all time and personally favorite esport to watch. So as soon as I got the green light to sign a player, I was like, all right, let's go. And since then, we've been doing TMT, which is Training Mode Tuesdays. It's a tournament that Kadoran has already been doing for quite some time now. But we got in there to sort of beef it up. We added $1,000 weekly prize pool to it, and we just plan on doing a lot more stuff in Smash because, like I said, it's my favorite. It's also very exciting and a good place to be.
Good to have you here, Michael. And Colin, tell us a little bit about Beastcoast.
Cool. So I am Colin Bashor. I'm the general manager at Beastcoast. We've been in Smash basically since we started. Our first 2 signings were actually Mike Hayes and Mr. R in July of 2017. And currently we have Magi, Cosmos, and S2J and Homemade Waffles on our team.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then finally, last, tell us a little bit about your involvement with Team Liquid and what you guys do there.
Yeah, I think Team Liquid is probably one of the oldest still active Smash orgs. I believe it was back in like 2014, right after the big Evo blow up. We signed Ken and Korean DJ, and then when Team Liquid and Curse merged, we also got Chillin' Dude and Hungrybox, all of whom have been going strong for a very long time. But for me personally, I started with Team Liquid back in 2020, actually as an events organizer. I was responsible for like the juice box and the lunch box, and now currently the coin box. But as time went on, I kind of found that my personal strengths lay with coaching. So I was just recently signed as the head coach of Smash at Team Liquid, mostly focused on Ultimate. So working with Riddles and Buzz, who are our 2 Ultimate players, but also working a little bit with Hungrybox just on like some general mentality stuff, not like actual gameplay stuff, because I do not understand Melee.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, to begin our discussion, thanks again, all of you, so much for taking part of this. But to begin our discussion, I guess we'll focus with more of a broad question, just in terms of looking at Smash as a business investment in esports. Obviously, compared to a lot of games, it's incredibly unique compared to something like, say, League of Legends or CSGO that has a much more supportive scene surrounding it. Uh, We'll start off just by asking what makes Smash unique from a business compared to other esports games? What do you think was the reason that your guys' orgs really got into the game?
I can
I
start. Oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead, go ahead.
Loss.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll
You.
go. I think just like thinking about it from a like a marketing and branding perspective, Smash is probably one of, if not the most recognizable, maybe not most popular, but most recognizable esport like genres out there. Like if you talk to somebody who has no idea what an esport is and you try and tell them about League of Legends, they're not really going to get it, right? But if you tell them, oh, it's Mario and Luigi beating each other up, they'll probably at least have like a baseline understanding of it. And the same goes for like spectators. I've like sat down on the couch with my mom and shown her like a Smash Major, and she's at least been able to like follow along. But if I tried to do the same thing with like Dota 2, she would get bored and go do something else.
A similar point, or what were your thoughts?
I was gonna say honestly, a lot of the time it comes down to just cost efficiency, more than anything else. Like when Beastcoast started, we were a bootstrapped organization. I wasn't actually even working here. It was our founder Grant, and he really wanted to be in Smash because he really loved both Mr. R and Mike Hayes' brands and who they were and how they competed and how they kind of presented themselves. And they were just kind of the fit for the brand he was trying to build, and he could get them at a rate that he could really afford from an investment perspective. If you're looking at CS:GO salaries or Dota 2 salaries, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars for a minimum of 5 people every single month in terms of an expenditure. And if you're on the Smash side, the market just isn't at that same rate at this point. So you can kind of get a little bit more of an efficiency. I think one of the things that kind of sets apart the organizations on this panel, at least, is I see a lot of organizations who see that economic efficiency and they'll bring on Smash, they'll use Smash to kind of grow themselves, and then all of a sudden you see like a year or two in, all of a sudden the Smash players start getting dropped, and here it goes, and you start kind of moving out of that and using it as a springboard. I think for at least for us, like we see significant value in staying in Smash. So I mean, we don't have any plans to do that, but I think a lot of the time the appeal for at least most orgs getting started in Smash is just the cost efficiency is usually pretty good.
Yeah, I don't
Absolutely.
want to. I don't want to downplay the cost efficiencies. I think they're really significant, right? I think Smash punches above its weight on a dollar for dollar efficiency standpoint, and that is I think one of the biggest reasons to get in and stay in. The community is hyper engaged. They'd have to be to still be playing a game that's 21 years old, as much as they do and following and whatever. But I actually think for us, the lack of developer control of the space was actually an asset for given the size of the scene. It means that there's a lot of opportunity for orgs who want to do more than just sign a player and put a jersey on them to do more. There's plenty of room for orgs with ambition to do stuff. We run our own, annual event of medium size. We have a lot of, we have a podcast and other things that go on around it. There's space in the ecosystem for people who are not the developer, and whether that's benign neglect or whatever on Nintendo's part, it created room, and we were looking for titles at the time that would give us more room to have owned and operated, sort of products that we could package up and sell.
Well,
Yeah,
that scene. Go ahead. Sorry, Michael.
sorry, yeah, I just wanted to agree with Hunter here, and that's sort of the room that we took here at FlyQuest, and on a personal level, I really wanted to make sure that we got into it really hard, really fast, just because this is a community that I've been a part of as a fan, as a viewer for over 10 years now. I've been watching Smash ever since I was a young boy. And the fact that I'm able to get in there and provide tournaments, provide content, provide financial stability to a lot of the players who frankly deserve it is just like it's a blessing, honestly.
Absolutely. Well, that's the interesting thing about all your orgs and what Hunter was mentioning that I find kind of interesting and that I'd like to expound upon a bit is the fact that all the orgs represented here are some of the ones that definitely go above and beyond as far as investing in Smash, because you've seen a lot of orgs that they'll come in with a decent amount of money, they'll maybe sign a big player or two, they'll give them a jersey, they'll pay for their flights, and then, as Colin was mentioning, then they'll be dropped like in a year or two. But with all the different things that you guys do, like I know that Golden Guardians has obviously had like the Smash Fund to support grassroots initiatives, like Michael was mentioning with TMT, as well as Colin in terms of the content that Beastcoast does on your guys' YouTube and channel and stuff. How, in terms of creating a sector of your guys' company, in terms of creating a sustainable Smash section for your esports orgs, how how indispensable is that? How important is it to have things like, investment in content in addition to players? How important would you say that factor is? I invite anybody to answer on this one.
I think it's incredibly important for like earlier Hunter was talking about how much Smash punches above its weight class, so to speak, in terms of like investment and return, but you only really get that return if you're building a structure such as like content, such as like events, et cetera, et cetera. Otherwise, like you're not really going to get much of a return on investment because as sad as it is, Smash doesn't really have like the prize pools that other esports have. So you're not going to be relying on, oh, this is the best player in the world and he's won every single tournament. Because even then, that's not nearly as much as a content creator like Mango, for example, is going to be like drawing both in terms of eyes and in terms of revenue. So I think it's incredibly important for any team that invests in like a top level player to also invest in that top level player's content, because without content and without like anything along those lines surrounding it, they're not really going to get a return on investment.
Absolutely. Les, what would you say your experience has been in terms of Team Liquid's community involvement in things like the box, the juice box? What has been your experience with that, and as far as how that ties in with this?
It's been pretty fantastic so far. It's a weekly tournament, so I get like pretty much anything within reason that like I need to make the tournament run smoothly. I can ask for like graphical support, I can ask for like stream production help, I can ask for like additional manpower to actually run the brackets. It's basically like we want this tournament to be something that the community enjoys, the community looks forward to, both participating in and watching. And so we're going to dedicate those resources necessary to make that like a thing that is good. So a lot of the time it's just like, hey, what do you need to make sure that this functions and functions well? And we will do it because we want it to be a proper investment so we can get a proper return on investment.
Absolutely. So, Michael, I want to bring you in on this, just as far as part of FlyQuest's strategy with Smash is concerned was not just signing Condorn, but also the fact that, as you mentioned, you guys put up money for TMT, like the weekly competition. What was the philosophy behind that decision, and sort of you guys' thinking as far as making that call to do that?
Yeah. So they're Kadora and TMT. They're both the same. Kadoran has been running TMT even before he joined FlyQuest for over a year, I think, something like that. So part of the decision that we made as an org was like we want to sign a player, but we want to sign a player that has a lot of these other qualities. I think if you guys know Kadoran, you guys know he is the sweetest, most genuine player in the scene. I mean, like I don't want to, but that was part of it, and part of our brand being the wholesome good guys of esports. I think everything fit perfectly, and the fact that we were able to help him with TMT to grow his content. I know he's not just a player, but he's also a TO, tournament organizer. He also wants to do a lot of content, so I think it was very cool to be able to help him not just be financially stable as a player, but also to grow his other content, including TMT as
Absolutely. Well, that's something that some of you guys have done as orgs is in addition to just signing players, signing other talent that's involved in the scene. Like I know Colin with Beastcoast, you guys obviously have homemade waffles signed to the team. What do you think, like a person like that, that's more of like not so much a player, but more of like a caster type role? What sort of benefits would you say that Beastcoast has seen from having signed someone like that to the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like everyone else has touched on, where if you're within Smash, like the awesome part about that is that you can kind of invest very broadly across the ecosystem. Like you're not just limited to a player, and like the return on investment of signing a player who's really good, even if they won, every single tournament or top 3 tournaments, the maximum like amount of value you can kind of derive from that is that your brand is out there and you're getting a lot of brand visibility, and you could maybe sell a sponsorship on their jersey, but that's pretty limited in terms of the actual like return on investment that you could actually generate from that. In terms of like raw dollar values in, and you're getting significant brand marketing value out of it, but it's not massive. So I think for us working with Brandon, he's one, just a really hard worker. He does a ton of work behind the scenes, really really understands the scene and the people within the scene. I want to shout out his tournament, both Town Throwdown, which takes place in person in Oakland. Rollback Rumble was something that he was doing during the COVID-19 pandemic, that kind of kept the scene alive, at points in time. And there are other folks who contributed to that as well. But he's a great tournament organizer. He's a great caster. He's a great representative of our brand, and he's incredibly. I know. Michael was just mentioning that Katorin's incredibly, genuine, very kind. That's Brandon as well. He's just an incredibly genuine guy. When you see him on the mic casting games, like that's him. Like that, you're not getting an altered version of him. If you're talking to him on camera, off camera, that's the exact same guy. So, honestly, it was investing in the person for us, as well as just investing in what he was doing, and really trying to, I think, give him the structure and give him the financial backing to improve on the things that he was doing, and really let him kind of push things to the next level.
Absolutely. And same question to you, Hunter, as far as working with people like PPMD as well as Toph. And then I'd also like maybe your perspective on Golden Guardians last year. I believe it was last year, maybe it was 2020, in terms of like putting money towards investing in the grassroots scene and as far as tournaments. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so we a year into working with Zane, we were very happy with our Smash investment and wanted to do more. And we started just by asking him who he thought would be great to work with. We was, still deep into the throes of COVID. We weren't going to create a real content house, but we could effectively create a digital content house by signing, other people within the space. We were looking for a diverse set of backgrounds, a diverse set of interests, diverse skill sets, thinking that the best content would come out of having all of that. And we had some ideas for that. And we basically got everybody on the top of our list. That was a really nice situation. And when we expanded, we went in with 4 main pillars, right? Like sign tremendous people and support them and what they're doing, create team up content around them, weekly podcast, YouTube series, other things that have been really successful, create our own standalone event. We've started the Octagon. We've done 2 so far, and the third one probably will come up at some point, sometime later in the year. And we started the Grassroots Fund because, sort of underpinning any successful esports scene is a really strong community. And this one needs direct grassroots support because there isn't any developer making sure that it exists in the same way, at least at the Melee level, at least right now and whatever. So so we put $50,000 to per year to support locals that are going on out there in the scene, especially deep in the throes of COVID when all of that was really struggling. So that sort of comprehensive approach I think netted us a lot of different benefits in the scene, but it was necessary to have the kind of talent that we assembled, people with a long history within the game, geographically spread out, a ton of connections. I think Toph and PPMD can talk about where Smash has been in addition to where it's going. And Zane and Nunn sit right in the present of, sort of the top of every competition and competing everywhere. So they're a wonderful connection. And, we were explicitly looking for people who wanted to be more than just a player wearing a jersey. And we found them.
How much different would you guys say it's going to look now that we're sort of going into, because unfortunately, because of the pandemic, most of the investments, as you mentioned, have sort of focused on different online type stuff, like in terms of weekly competitions and things like that. where is it going to go from here now that we're sort of seeing offline events and stuff? Do you think we're going to see a lot more esports orgs investing in things like offline tournaments and majors and things like that?
I don't know. I think the scene, should continue to welcome all investment that comes in. There are plenty of, wonderful players who, could use sponsors of one kind or another. I will say, I don't think online is going anywhere. Our data shows about 35% of our audience started playing Smash, started playing Melee during the Slippy era. I mean, that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of recency. And those people have never experienced offline in any major way, and they're about to see what that looks like. I also think ranked, which is, inevitable at this point, is going to be transformative for that online experience that is bringing in so many people. So I think online is here to stay. And while offline starts to creep back into prominence, I think offline will now define the competitive scene and the real peaks. But ranked play and online play will be the sort of steady heartbeat of competition that keeps Smash bumping along.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Colin?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to agree and then add on. I think that Smash definitely shouldn't be turning away investments from those teams, but I also think the space is a little bit oversaturated at the moment. We're seeing, especially right now during the summer, there is a major event every single weekend and sometimes multiple per weekend. So I think any team looking to burst into the space with something like an event probably needs to temper their expectations because they're going to be going up against an already established community favorite. So I think a lot more advisable would be teams partnering with events, which I've seen a couple of times. So for example, let's say Golden Guardians really likes Beyond the Summit. So for the next main stage, it's, Golden Guardians main stage, or it's just stuff like that where established teams or new teams are adding on to events instead of trying to push events to the side so that they can have their own thing.
Colin, Michael, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I just want to give my thoughts on online. Obviously, online is great. It gives accessibility to a lot of people who have never been able to access Smash before. Now we're getting so many people getting really good really fast, and I think a lot of that, or most of it, has to do with the fact that you can play Melee online now. I think the one problem that we still currently suffer from is that a lot of the top players um, play tournaments for power ranking, and no online results affect that in any way. So maybe if we can somehow figure out a good way to tackle that issue, I think online will be just as important as offline events as it is standing currently.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
correct me if I'm wrong. There hasn't been an official ranking update since 2019, right?
It's been a while,
I
yeah.
can't remember if there's been
Kind
one.
of.
Yeah.
In I think 3 or 4 months ago, PG Stats released the contenders list, which wasn't an ordered ranking, but it was more of a these players are good. Watch
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I think they were going to restart it, but then after Genesis had to move dates, then they what's it called? They canceled.
The season started March 1st of this year and ends next week. So it started, at least Ultimate wise, started with Collision 2022 and ends with Battle of BC 4, which is a very short ranking period.
It'll be back. It'll be back. So moving along with this discussion, I wanted your guys' perspective as far as the challenges that you see. Obviously, the biggest thing with Smash is the fact that there isn't developer support. But there's other challenges, like with what Last mentioned, as far as having trust in the Smash community. The Smash community can sometimes maybe be sometimes hostile towards outside investment if it's not from people that they actually know, as well as just the fact that it's a 1v1 game compared to standard esports is usually 5v5. So what would you say some of the challenges and how you have to approach Smash esports compared to other games? What have some of the lessons that you guys have learned on your time with your orgs?
I guess I'll go first again. Specifically for Smash, you were talking about people being hostile to not just outside influences, but like unfamiliar influences. And
Yeah.
I think it's very much a direct result of like Smash being grassroots, because I've seen the same thing in other FGC communities where it's not so much that they're like hostile and unwelcoming to unfamiliar things. It's more so that they're very good at like sensing uh dishonesty, or like I don't remember the exact word for it, but it's just like fakeness essentially.
Disingenuous.
So disingenuous. Thank you. That is the word I was looking for. So like Smash is very very uh quick to jump on something if they sense that it's disingenuous. So you can't like go in holding your cards close to your chest if you're trying to make something work in a grassroots scene. You have to be very, very upfront. You have to be very, this is what we plan on doing. This is why we're doing it. And this is what's going to happen because of it. Because otherwise, Smash is going to clam up. They're going to reel back because they've been burned before and they don't really want to be burned again.
Absolutely.
I think another issue that is inherent in the scene, and I think we're used to it at this point, but I think a point that, nonetheless needs to be brought up is that the lack of money in the scene. Honestly, it's very hard for players to pursue Smash as a career. Just by, you know, just by that alone, they have to rely on signing with an org, creating content. I mean, Laud had to become a doctor just to support his Smash career. So I think that's some issue that we have right now, is the lack of not just developer support, but also just a lot of money, honestly, for these players.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make a career out of Smash, I don't know exactly where the break point is of being, in the top X of people for that, but it's kind of crazy to me that, if you're one of the 100 best people in the world at something, you can't make a career out of it. And almost anything else you look at, if you were in like the top 100 of just about anything, like you could usually kind of monetize that, not saying you're living in a mansion every single time on that, but it's kind of crazy to me that once you kind of fall out of really, I'd say like the top 50 of Smash, like there's not a lot of prospect there, and it's very difficult to monetize just on your competitive talents alone.
I would honestly say it's like top 10 that you could survive off of competitive alone. It's
Yeah,
pretty tight.
It's
yeah,
honestly probably a top three.
They
yeah.
just keep getting smaller.
I think I was probably being a little bit too generous there. It's at least in my mind in Melee, it's like it's Mango, it's Hungrybox, but then even those guys are, incredible content creators and entertainers in addition to their ability to compete. So it's hard to take them in a vacuum. There is one thing, at least for Melee, that for me is a logistical problem, and I think this is true of a lot of console games where you have to be in person. It's just the logistics of running a tournament is incredibly expensive and incredibly difficult to coordinate. In particular, the CRTs. I know for Genesis, I was talking with Brandon, and he supplied a lot of the CRTs for Genesis. And he's worked very hard to basically get like a storage unit in the Bay Area filled with CRTs, and he's got, I think, a couple dozen CRTs. But like if you don't have that in a local scene, it's incredibly difficult to run events in person, and even just frankly getting a hold of the switches to run Ultimate and getting those all hooked up and set up. Like someone's got to put in a lot of time to do the presets for any given tournament. It's
I
not
c-
just yeah,
I
you've
can give
probably
you
been there
exact
on that
numbers.
grind, right?
The
Yeah.
the speedrun world record for unlocking all characters in Ultimate is 3 hours. And that's the world record. So it's usually like 4 to 5 hours just to unlock everyone.
Yeah, and so it's logistically difficult at times to put together at least an in-person tournament. And it gets done because people love the game and because there's this amazing community that's willing to pony up. Like I know, personally, when I've been competing in locals, there's usually someone bringing a setup. It's always like hey, bring a setup, you get free venue entry. Like that's been the deal for a very very long time within Smash. But it is logistically difficult to put on these events. And there is kind of that load, and the Smash community is honestly incredible at building that infrastructure. I know that there's a lot of really good TOs who are incredible logistically, and a lot of folks who've come out of Smash and gone to work on other things at major game studios such as Riot, such as Blizzard, and they've really grown basically off their ability to work their ass off in Smash and really kind of prove that out and handle very difficult logistics.
I like what you guys were mentioning as far as the content creator aspect of like Smash Esports and like how sort of like important that is as far as what you see. Because last, I'm sure you would know this. When it comes to Team Liquid, I believe Hungry Bucks was like the most successful streamer or content creator like with the org. I think that was announced last year that he had like the most viewership of like across all of Team Liquid, even compared to like League of Legends or Dota 2 or CS:GO. Uh, all of your guys' orgs have a focus on content, and I'm sure you have experience with other things like Dota 2 and League of Legends. What would you say the reception is like as far as content is concerned when you make it for Smash compared to maybe some of the other esport games that you guys provide content for?
I think with Smash, it's always difficult to innovate in terms of the content game because it's 2 decades old, especially with games like Melee. So like there's only so many Iron Man challenges or win with every character that you can do before it gets very very old, both in like streaming and YouTube, and even with like fantastic players, you only want to watch Zane fight Moki so many times, even though it's a great set every time. The 10th time you've seen the set, it's not as interesting. So they always have to be very very creative with both like how they challenge themselves and how they like make it interesting to their audience. It can be done a number of ways. Like Hungry Box, you were talking about, for example, does it with a very bombastic like screen personality. And he's like that in person too. It's not just for the camera, but not everybody can be Hungry Box. So I think it's always an interesting like an arms race almost for people to figure out like, hey, how can I make my content interesting? And it's a very difficult question to answer.
Drew,
Yeah, I
what has... Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, I just think that's exactly where orgs find their opportunities, right? Is that it is hard for an individual on their own to keep their stream fresh and their YouTube fresh all the time. But with support and potentially other people, I think it's a lot easier to keep the different kinds of content flowing. Our YouTube channel and just in general, we do sort of game show parodies, we do history focused content, we do current meta content, we have a podcast, we're doing a bunch of different things on there that involve everybody's different personalities and sort of skill sets for exactly that reason, that like ultimately just turning on your stream every day, which is great, and these guys kind of have to do it. You can't just be a professional player, you have to be a content creator. It's hard. Streaming is a grind. Like that level of streaming is a different kind of grind, and so helping those guys keep that stream fresh and keep their day-to-day and week-to-week fresh is something that I think is exactly where orgs should be looking to sort of be additive to the scene when they come in.
Colin, Michael, any thoughts?
I actually wanted to hear a little bit more from Hunter, just kind of about how you guys approach that, because I think you guys have done an awesome job with the content you guys have created at Golden Guardians, and like really like, I mean, you very quickly spun up just kind of this massive content engine that's creating really quality content, both on like Toast channel, Nun's channel, Zane's channel, on basically everyone's platform, as well as you guys have your own content that you guys are doing a really good job on. And like what's the approach that you guys are kind of looking at there? Like, are you getting into ideation meetings with them? Because you kind of mentioned like keeping it fresh with them. Like you're spending, yeah.
Yeah. So we have sort of approached that on probably 3 different vectors. One, just like everybody else, we got into Smash initially in part because the existing business staff here had a ton of interest in the game, right? Just like deep fans who have been playing the game for years and years. And that is sort of necessary, I think, if you want to start creating content for that community. You have to understand the community. So, we had people with fun ideas and new takes and other things they wanted to see. 2, absolutely. When we expanded, Zane was in every conversation about, well, not every conversation, but many conversations about who we were adding, why, what we were looking for, what they were bringing to the table. And then we do a number of brainstorming sessions, throughout what we have sort of different content seasons that are 3 or 4 months long. We're ending our 3rd and we'll be starting our 4th. And in between, we take time to look at what is working, what's not working. We ask the guys, they're very active in giving feedback. You can definitely tell when they don't enjoy recording something. And we have, just, I think, really creative people, Zeke on our social team, who's taking an increasingly big role in our content as time has gone on, driving ideation and creativity and looking for new and fun ideas. I tell the guys constantly, like, I am confident that they have more good ideas than we can ever execute. The hardest part is just going to be writing them all down and sorting through which ones we want to do first. Like, the scene has so much creativity that has been untapped just because of sort of the general size and approach and kind of where Melee has been, that it is more about, sort of drawing out the fun ones and sticking with that than it is about, like, struggling hard to think of some good idea.
Oh, wait, Michael, did you have a thought?
Oh no, I'm good.
Oh, sorry, you unmuted yourself. Sorry about that. I have a couple other questions, but I want to at least do a few of our Q&A questions from the audience. First question from Twitter. I'd love to hear from Ryan or others a bit more specifically about coaching in Smash compared to other games and how it differs. Les, what's your thoughts on that?
I think coaching, just like as a meta, both in Ultimate and in Melee, is kind of underdeveloped because it's been like, even though Melee's been going for 20 years, how many Melee coaches can you name that aren't like actual just like Zane? Like, sure, Zane coaches Melee, but he's also the best player right now. So there's not a lot of people who are like very much focused on, I am a coach and that is my job. Like, Crunch was a big example before me. Charles, who's currently on Beastcoast, shout out to Charles, is another pretty big example of that for Ultimate. But I think my approach to it is pretty unique in that I only really focus on like top level coaching. I don't really coach like lower to mid level players because in my mind, at least, we shouldn't be focusing on stuff like tech skill or stuff like here's how you B reverse or here's how you wave bounce. Like, I don't really think that that's very useful outside of just like personal practice once a day or so. More so what I focus on is very much, here's your bracket, here's who you're going to be playing, here are the matchups. Let's talk about, hey, what are you doing in neutral versus this matchup? And then once we've gone over the matchup, we're going to study a couple of VODs of this specific player and pick up on habits. So what I do is a lot of the preparatory work for these players, because not a lot of them have like the know-how or the time, honestly, to go through and study half an hour of VOD for every single opponent they have, just so that they can know, hey, this guy likes to roll out of the corner and you can F smash him for it. So it's just like, I take a lot of that weight off of the player's shoulders so that they don't have to worry about it. And then they can focus more on, practicing their tech skill because they don't have to think about prepping for their round 2 winner's side.
Yeah, not to give away too much of Charles's secret sauce, but that a lot of what he does within his coaching is kind of giving people a framework to improve from and a framework to evaluate themselves. I know, he's done work with every single one of our players, both on the Melee side and the Ultimate side, even though he knows how Melee works, but he's not quite the same level as he is in Ultimate. But it's, for him, it's like, taking like, what are the things that like are the weaknesses of your game, examining those, and then using that as a way to practice. Like, if you have 1 hour of playing friendlies with someone, like, pick like the one thing that you're going to work on in that specific matchup that you have identified as a weak point and just hammer on that.
Yeah, and Charles and I have talked a lot about stuff like this. Like, I've literally removed a player's jump button for a practice session because I wanted them to stop jumping in disadvantage.
Yeah. So like, it seems to me a lot of the coaching comes down to providing a framework and providing a structure more so than necessarily, like you said, if you're teaching someone how to, be reverse, all the way down to the lower level, it's like, well, I can give you a YouTube video and you can follow that. And then really you're just practicing a mechanical motion with your hands on a controller rather than necessarily a, conceptual challenge.
Michael,
very much agreed.
Michael Hunter, I know you guys don't have a specific like Melee coach, but in terms of, or like a Smash coach, but in terms of just like, the resources as far as like sports psychology, do you guys provide anything for your guys as players?
They have access to certain things that we make available for all of our pros, for sure. But I think every like it's much easier with our League of Legends players who we have our hands on, right, and are at the facility and everything else to understand, the sort of nuance of what they're going through and how we can help them. The Smash players are more remote; they're highly individual competitors. It is really more on them to kind of set the tone of their training and sort of and ask for what they need than working the reverse. I think.
Very cool, very
I
cool.
would agree with Hunter. I think obviously we FlyQuest only have the one player right now, but he hasn't really shown that he needs anything. I think if you guys know Kadoran, he's very much a grinder, so he kind of knows what he needs to improve on. Like he'll self-analyze everything that he did right, he did wrong within like 5 minutes of ending a set. So he works on it himself, and I think he's very good at that, which is why he's shown so much improvement.
Awesome, awesome. Let's go and ask another question. This one's directed towards Hunter, but I'm sure you guys this is a topic everyone would love to talk about. Hunter mentioned the lack of dev control as an asset. Can you touch more on that? Seems very backward compared to other scenes.
I think it is, and there are pros and cons to be clear, right? So the more a developer controls a scene, the more it is in their control, and the more any org or anyone participating in the scene is reliant on that developer to make the most of those opportunities and ultimately share the wealth with everyone else who's participating in one form or another, whether it's direct or indirect. The less a developer controls the scene, the more it's on each individual participant within the scene to make the most of that opportunity for themselves, because there isn't anyone sort of defining it. No one in theory can operate a scene the way a developer can. I mean, they hold ultimately all the licensing power necessary at the top. But in a world where a developer isn't doing something, that just means there are things for other people to do. And if you are someone who wants to do more than just participate in tournaments or show up at a developer-led event, those are opportunities for you. So we are an organization that we're explicitly looking for that, looking for games. We want a broad portfolio of games, but some of those we want to be ones where we can do more than just participate in something. And Smash is definitely one of those. People pointed out all the reasons why running tournaments is hard and doing all these other things is hard. They are, and it's nice when a developer who doesn't necessarily have a bottom line profit-driven motive to create an esports scene handles a lot of those upfront costs and logistics and other challenges. But I think Melee is in a particular sweet spot of that, the opportunity in an unregulated space, greatly outweighing the downsides of no developer seizing all of that control and then figuring out how to share it back out with people.
Yeah, I think having developers can create some really weird situations. I think like Overwatch League is the one that comes to mind for me, where Blizzard came in. There was this awesome grassroots scene really early on in Overwatch. I think like really the first year there was a lot of just kind of people running tournaments. There were a lot of really cool teams. People were really excited about it, and then Blizzard kind of came in and went no, and just kind of paved over all of it and kind of just ran it over. And so like developer control can be really nice. Sometimes they do a great job, and sometimes they can be very frustrating, and they can kind of take the heart out of the scene by um, just kind of taking what's there and saying no, 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 like we want to control all of this. And like I totally get the impulse and why they want to do that, but it can result in some situations where it's almost better if they hadn't gotten involved.
I'm
So
so
yeah.
glad you brought up Overwatch because I used to play Overwatch competitively, and like you said, it was really fun being a pro back in the days where everything was grassroots. There was like go-to gamers, weeklies, tournaments like that we would participate in, and like you said, Blizzard just kind of came in and shut everything down. And I was a little worried when Nintendo made their announcement for the Smash circuit that they were planning on doing. I was worried that they would kind of go along the veins of Blizzard and sort of shut everything down and force us under their sanctioned events only. Um, Thankfully, that's not happening yet, so I'm glad for that. And I'm like Hunter said, I think Smash is in that sweet spot. I think the fan base, the players, everything is so passion driven in Smash. Like I think a lot of us were echoing the sentiment that there's not a lot of money in Smash. So really, the primary driving factor for a lot of these these players is purely passion and the competitive drive. And I think that makes Smash one of the best scenes to work in.
Absolutely. I think that's a point that I want to finish off on. We have 5 minutes, so I guess I'll just ask this as sort of a concluding question. Is just your guys' general optimism, where do you guys see the scene 5, 10 years from now? We have it where, some people say, I mean, I know people have been saying this for like the past 20 years that Melee's dying, but we're hearing a lot more of that now. Obviously, with Ultimate, we don't know if there's going to be any more updates or if there's going to be another game, but what's your guys' general thoughts on like the next 5 to 10 years? How optimistic are you, and what do you think the big changes will be that we'll see in that time?
5 to 10 years is an incredibly long time in esports. So I will say, though, that I'm very optimistic about Smash in general. I think the passion for this community and the way that it's grown in the Slippy era should lead everybody to think that the sort of foundation that the esports scene is built on is incredibly strong and really only getting stronger. It is, as with all these scenes, it's on us to steward the scene, the esports scene, well, and make sure that, we're not burning bridges behind us or kind of eroding that foundation in the way we operate. But I think there are so many people, in it for the right reasons, looking out for the scene overall, that in general, I'm really happy where Smash is and optimistic for its future.
Yeah, I don't, for Melee specifically, I don't think Melee can die. If anything was going to kill Melee, it was going to be the quarantine, and some dude in like by himself made online for a 20-year-old game just to stop Melee from dying. Like if
it is better than most AAA studios.
Yeah, like if like a quarantine for a 20-year-old game that you used to play on, like in couch co-op could not kill it, I don't think anything's going to kill Melee. Ultimate's still in its like formative years compared to a lot of other esports. Like it's only, I think it's about to turn 3 this December. So like especially compared to games like CS:GO or Overwatch or like any of those other like types of games, it's still very much like developing. The top players have emerged, but there's still a lot of room for other people to come out, and there's a lot of room for growth, both like tournament organizer wise and also like player brand wise. So I think it's in a good spot right now, and the trajectory is also very good for Ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with kind of what everyone said, but it's 5 years is a very long time, like you said, Hunter. It's a significant amount of time to look out. I think Melee is always going to be around as long as there are two people who want to play the game. It's not really going anywhere, and I think this the appeal of how fast the game can be and how cool the game can really be is something that's always going to draw people in. It's always going to make people go, wow, I really want to do that. That looks so cool. Like that's just going to happen. And I think also when you have as enduring an IP as kind of the Nintendo brand and the other licensed products that are within Ultimate, it's hard to, I think, keep people out of that. That's always going to be, I think, something that's compelling to a wide array of people who will come into the game and will get excited about it and stick around, and that's really what it takes with Smash, where it's just people who wind up loving the game and go, hey, I'd love to organize tournaments in my local scene, and that it turns into something more than that and something more than that and something more than that, and all of a sudden you've got these massive tournaments like Genesis, for example, which started in a warehouse out in kind of the East Bay in the Bay Area, and now that's selling out the San Jose Convention Center. You get insane kind of just growth like that, and I think people are just so dedicated and so passionate about both games that there's not really anywhere for them to go. I think like the thing that I would love to see for Ultimate is I'd love to see them get kind of a net code on the level of Slippy, but that's the only real, I guess, sort of concern that I have about that scene's ability to grow, is that the online can be a little bit, finicky, but I can't think of a lot less that, or a lot of things that'll, kind of get in the way there. Michael, you have a closing
Yeah.
thought?
All I'll say is that in 10 years, I think 40-year-old Mango's winning Summit.
You can't
Is that his
keep
first
Mango
summit?
down.
Or which summit?
He
win was that?
won Summit
Oh.
11, so
yeah,
he
did
got
won
his
award.
dub.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't keep Mango down. He always comes back.
he'll retire, but he'll come back. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being part of this panel. Really insightful information. Appreciate you guys' participation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.